You are surely aware that water covers the majority of the surface of our planet. Specifically, it's a hair shy of 71%. However, you might not be aware that waves at sea can travel at speeds of up to hundreds of miles per hour. Or that there is millions of tons of gold in the ocean's depths. Or that charts of Mars are more vast and detailed than those of our own oceans. Yes, the oceans on our globe are physically deep, but their mystery and allure go even deeper. You'll be completely astounded by the following obscure oceanic facts. The majority of our world is dark because of the ocean. Because light waves can only travel 330 feet beneath the surface of the sea, everything below that depth in the oceans is black. Given that water makes up the majority of the planet, this implies that the majority of Earth is permanently in complete darkness. An icequake was the source of the loudest ocean noise. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, recorded the bloop, one of the loudest sounds ever recorded, in 1997. The blast was audible from sensors more than 3,000 kilometers distant. Researchers at first observed that the sound's characteristics gave the impression that it was created by an animal, despite the fact that no known mammal is large enough to produce that sound. The NOAA came to the conclusion that the noise was caused by an icequake after 15 years, which occurs when seismic activity cracks frozen ground. This conclusion is still contested by many people, and the bloop continues to be a popular subject for conspiracy theories. The Grand Canyon appears little next to the canyons of the ocean. The Zemchug Canyon, which is in the Bering Sea, has a vertical relief of 8,520 feet, which is over 2,500 feet deeper than the magnificent Grand Canyon on Earth. Under the ocean's surface are the largest waves. The largest waves in the ocean are not those that can be seen from the beach. Internal waves, which happen between two fluids with two different densities, are the greatest waves that can be seen in the ocean, according to physical oceanographer Kim Martini in an interview with Deep Sea News. These internal waves have the potential to become 650 feet tall as they travel, for thousands of kilometers, no less. Extremely hot water can be found at the ocean's bottom. With the exception of water that emerges from hydrothermal vents in the seafloor, the water's temperature in these deepest regions of the ocean may only range from 2 to 4 degrees Celsius. These vents can spew water that is up to 400 degrees Celsius, 750 degrees Fahrenheit, hot. The reason the water doesn't boil at these depths is the high pressure present there, which is the same pressure that would kill you. Almost all life on Earth is found in the ocean. It's simple to overlook that the oceans are teeming with life since there is so much activity just below the surface. The USA Science and Engineering Festival estimates that 94% of life is aquatic. In light of this, those of us who inhabit the land belong to a very, very small minority. Coral makes its own sunblock. The algae that reside inside coral in shallow water might be harmed by too much sunshine. The corals glow to protect the algae, which are their primary food supply. As a result, proteins are produced that serve as a kind of sunscreen for the algae. We could each have 9 pounds of gold if there was enough in the ocean. In the waters, there are about 20 million tons of gold. According to the National Ocean Service, its concentration is barely a few parts per trillion, which means it is diluted almost to a pulp. Undissolved gold is also lodged in the ocean floor, but mining it would not be profitable. We would each receive 9 pounds of the ocean's gold, however, if it were distributed equally among all people on the planet. There is an ice sheet that is bigger than the US continent. The Greenland ice sheet and the Antarctic ice sheet are the only two ice remnants from the previous ice age on our planet. The size of the later of the two is astounding. According to the National Snow and Ice Data Center, SIDC, it measures 5.4 million square miles, or almost the combined area of the continental United States and Mexico. Sharks have their own cafe under the sea. It turns out that animals other than humans also require a winter break. In 2002, researchers found a location where great white sharks normally move to during their winter migration along the coast, halfway between Baja California and Hawaii. Some sharks hang out in the area for months before returning to the shore in search of warmer weather, hence the moniker, White Shark Cafe, given by the scientists to the location. The largest mountain range in the Earth is submerged, and it is 10 times longer than the Andes. The Andes, which span nearly 4,300 miles, is the longest mountain range above water. The submerged mid-oceanic ridge, which spans all continents and measures about 40,390 miles in length, is the largest mountain range on Earth. Greater in size than the Moon is the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean is significantly wider than the Moon at its widest point between Indonesia and Colombia. More than 5 times the size of the Moon, this oceanic swath is 12,300 miles across. For 5 years, one iceberg might provide enough water for 1 million people. More than 20 billion gallons of water can be found in a huge iceberg from Antarctica, which could theoretically provide 1 million people with drinking water for 5 years. This knowledge, though, isn't only a terrific method to show how enormous these icebergs are. For precisely this reason, a business in the United Arab Emirates intends to start towing icebergs from Antarctica to the coast. The average annual rainfall in the nation is only 4 inches, putting it in danger of experiencing a severe drought within the next 25 years. However, an iceberg water solution might be able to help. You would be crushed under the pressure at the ocean's bottom like an ant. The Mariana Trench, which has the deepest point on Earth and is located 35,802 feet below the surface, with water pressure of 8 tons per square inch. It would feel as though you were supporting close to 50 super jumbo jets if you made it down there. The ocean contains the largest waterfall on the globe. With a plunge of more than 3,200 feet, Angel Falls in Venezuela, above, is the tallest waterfall you're likely to see on land. But even it pales in comparison to the Denmark Strait Cataract, a submerged waterfall created by the temperature difference between the water on either side of the strait between Greenland and Iceland. When the chilly water from the east strikes the warmer water from the west, there is an 11,500-foot plunge beneath the warm water. The waterfall has a discharge rate of almost 123 million cubic feet per second, which is 50,000 times greater than Niagara Falls, according to the National Ocean Service. The Mariana Trench is less visited than the Moon. 12 people have walked on the Moon throughout human history, yet only 3 have reached the Mariana Trench due to the hostile environment there. One of them, perhaps? James Cameron, a director, wrote an article about the dive for National Geographic. Under the ocean lies the majority of the United States. More than half of the United States is submerged, according to CBS News. You ask how? Simple. Our nation's frontiers extend 200 nautical miles from the coast, not just where the land stops. Lakes and rivers also exist in oceans. The water feels like a completely different universe. Trenches, mountains, volcanoes, lakes, and rivers can all be found. On the seafloor, seawater creates little depressions as it passes through salt layers. Because it is denser and sinks into the depressions, the water surrounding these depressions contains more salt than typical seawater. This results in the formation of tiny brackish pools. These have shorelines, and some of them even have waves, making them similar to the lakes we are familiar with. Previously, the Mediterranean was dry. Until about 5 million years ago, the Mediterranean was a dry basin. During the Zanclean flood, however, water from the Atlantic surged over the Strait of Gibraltar and filled the basin. There are many theories as to how this occurred, but one catastrophic theory states that a huge flood caused the basin to fill up in under 2 years. Sea ice can be consumed. Sea ice can be consumed, but sea water cannot. Fresh sea ice, on the other hand, which still retains tiny saltwater pockets wedged in between ice crystals, is not something you want to consume. According to the NCIDC, as the ice ages, the brine drains away and the ice becomes sufficiently fresh to be melted and consumed. The ocean has an internet connection. According to Newsweek, undersea cables buried deep in the waters have handled more than 99% of transcontinental data traffic over the past few decades. As a result, international communication is made feasible by these cables. On Earth, the oceans are where most volcanic activity takes place. The oceans have by far the greatest amount of volcanic activity going on. In fact, 90% of all volcanic activity on Earth takes place in the water, with the South Pacific having the highest known density of active volcanoes. In a space no larger than New York, there are an astounding 1,133 volcanoes. Tsunamis travel at a 500 miles per hour speed. According to the Natural History Museum of Utah, tsunamis are caused by seismic activity and can travel across the ocean at 500 miles per hour when the water is 3.7 miles deep. Since they are only a few inches above the surface, these waves are typically not detected. Additionally, when the waves approach shore and the depths deepen, they gather up water and grow larger above the surface, but, thankfully, slow down. A hydrogen bomb was lost by the United States in the sea. Shipping containers disappear in the water every year, and oil leaks are very frequent. However, the US managed to lose a hydrogen bomb at sea in 1966. Fortunately, according to history, a Spanish fisherman assisted in its final discovery. The ocean has the greatest living structure on Earth. The Great Barrier Reef off the coast of Australia is the largest living structure in the world, larger than any gigantic fungus or even a vast forest of trees. The reef covers 133,000 square miles and is so massive that it can actually be viewed from orbit. In the ocean, there are 3 million shipwrecks. According to the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, there are about 3 million shipwrecks in the oceans, ranging from the Titanic to Christopher Columbus' Santa Maria. More items exist in the ocean than in all of the world's museums combined. The ocean is home to many relics and riches because of these millions of shipwrecks. According to National Geographic, there are more treasures on the ocean's floor than there are in all of the world's museums put together. Stories would be added to the sea level if all the ice melted. According to the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the sea level would rise around 262 feet, about the height of a 26-story building, if all of the glaciers and sheets of Arctic sea ice melted simultaneously. This is just a little less than the Statue of Liberty. Heat is drawn to the ocean. According to NOAA, the ocean is the planet's biggest solar energy catcher. Since there are too many greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, heat cannot escape, and since it must go someplace, it unfortunately finds its way into the oceans. Ocean temperatures have subsequently increased quickly during the last few decades. Our main supply of oxygen comes from the ocean. Phytoplankton, kelp, and algal plankton are the little marine plants that make up the majority of the oxygen in our atmosphere. According to National Geographic, experts believe they produce over 70% of the oxygen in the atmosphere. The weight of plastic in the water will surpass that of fish by 2050. Pollution is also fast altering the waters in our globe, in addition to climate change. According to Conservation International, 8 million metric tons of plastic are dumped into them annually. That predicts that there will be more tons of plastic in the water than fish in less than 30 years. Don't forget to subscribe our channel.